Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Do you think there's any part of your mother in Varla?
This is so crazy. I post a picture not too long ago, my mother holding me as a baby, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm like, what are you talking about? Varla's your mother. Have I ever showed you the picture?
No.
You're going to freak out. I showed it in my show briefly when I go to cheese and she's holding me. She's wearing a little dress. She has her hair pulled back with a long fall.
That's amazing.
It looks exactly like me. I didn't even think about this. This is a few years ago. I'll show you the picture. You're not going to believe it.
I can't wait.
So I had no idea that I was dressing up as my mother.
That's and have you been to therapy to discuss this?
No.
Oh my God. You would be such a good patient for a therapist.
It's just so funny. But wait till you see the picture.
I can't wait.
Me as my mother, and she's holding me, and it's the same little pattern of dress that I used to wear all the time. Remember back at the post office? I would wear these little dresses. It's creepy.
So, Varla becomes sort of this figure, this respected figure as far as, I remember when I first came here, it was like Varla is an operatic singer. That was one of the most beautiful parts, is that you were not lip syncing. You were this person. And
I had a very high voice then. When I got to 45, my voice lowered like octaves.
How about your balls?
Yeah, those have finally come out. They're grazing the floor now. But yeah, I used to sing lots of operatic, and when I did Chicago, the Broadway show,
you were. Wait, I have it.
Mary Sunshine.
Yeah, Mary Sunshine in the revival of Chicago.
Right.
You were on All My Children.
Was on All My Children as a prostitute.
As Varla?
Well, her name was Rosemary Chicken.
What the fuck?
I know.
But wasn't it good money?
It was great money, and it was just unbelievably trippy to have my grandmother watch All My Children, and then here I am with Opal and all these people. It was so trippy,
right?
And
Were you
so fast because movies, when you do a movie, you do it multiple times, but when I went to the set, I had a terrible, terrible cold, and I had to cancel a gig in Australia, a festival. And so I had this terrible cold. And so they have me be kind of the comic relief. And I walk up to, in the first scene, they say, let's block it. I'd never done this before. I had done Girls Will Be Girls already, but this was crazy fast. The set's already set up.
Yes.
There's no what time. They're not setting up lighting. It's already done. So I stood there. I was in the jail cell. And I'm talking to the main character, and they're like, okay, we're going to tape the first rehearsal. You don't
they always tape the first.
They just tape the rehearsal.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to the main character in the jail, and snot comes flying out of my nose and lands between her breasts. And so the rest of the scene, I'm
and you saw
freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out. They say, we got it. Move on.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about? I wasn't
had
acting.
a snot.
I had snot flying out of me. We didn't see it.
They do. I know, because they have to do a new show every day, and
when
they want to get the
show,
fuck out of there.
You see the snot fly out of my nose onto her breasts, and then have eyes like this. Oh my God! Because it was my first take ever in a soap opera. My first take ever, and they all have big giant heads in soap operas. It's so weird.
Oh, I know, and newscasters too.
Giant heads, and they kept that scene in.
That is so fun. Did you watch it?
Yes.
And you saw the snot?
You could see my snot fly out of my nose onto her breast. And then you see me not being, like if that happened on stage, I would laugh and
make a joke about it.
But I was so nervous.
Yeah. That is.
So I just seem like I have a Coke problem. And I would do things too, like her friend comes up to in a business suit to say, Greenlee, we're trying to get you out of prison. And I would go, I'd take my eyes and look down at his crotch and look up, and they kept it in, but they do these crazy sound effects. Like, she's funny. You know?
But it's kind of fun to not have to be yourself.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
If I could take a break from myself, oh my God, it's so fucking much work being me.
Yeah.
And then I go on stage and I have to be an even bigger version of me. It's so fucking annoying.
No, it was great. I mean, I had, a few opportunities like that, but now, like I'm saying, back then it was a little shocking and weird. I think Charles Bush, though, was on One Life to Live for a while, right? I remember, though, as a kid, seeing Charles Pierce on Wonder Woman as the villain. But I don't think they ever even revealed he was a man. But he has these giant man hands, and they do reveal he's a man. But they dubbed his entire voice the entire time a lady talking as him.
OMG.
Yes.
So you were definitely not represented on television as a kid. Like you had no.
Well, I just loved Carol Burnett. That's all I wanted to do. But I didn't want to be Harvey Korman or Tim Conway. I thought they were annoying. I wanted to be
Carol and Vicki Lawrence.
Yes.
You end up becoming, just a major drag queen during the early 2000s.
Well, before the internet, because back then,
you had to
people
work.
saw you in Provincetown, and then they'd say, hey, we'll book you in San Francisco. But then you'd have to go to San Francisco, and you'd have to depend on people who saw you in Provincetown to saying, you got to go see this act.
Yeah, everything was word of mouth.
Yeah, and the gay rags, the gay newspapers.
That's right. And it was, in a way, I liked it better.
I liked it better. You didn't have to be online all the time. There was a lot less competition.
I really feel like, I wrote this down in the notes, because I really wanted to talk about social media because it's a big part of your show and it's a big part of,
you have
me.
to be on it now. I remember Peaches telling me, Peaches Christ, who does drag in San Francisco, who's always on the trend, and, and she's been around a long time like me. She was like, girl, you're only posting a picture every month. Like, you're never going to survive. I remember 2 years ago him telling me that. And I'm thinking, oh, all right. And then I started doing a little more, but I did not do enough. I mean, I just, when I'm not doing Varla, I'm not thinking I want to post pictures of me as Varla eating, at Chipotle.
Right. And also you don't want to have to constantly be promoting yourself.
Right. But you got to. I mean, you just felt like you laid the groundwork already, but now
I feel like I do. I know. I feel like I worked so fucking hard, and then YouTube came along.
Oh yeah.
And clubs now, comedy clubs will now not. They'd rather book someone who has, 10 million followers on a YouTube video who only can really do 10 minutes of stand-up, have them headline the show because they're going to fill it up, than a seasoned comedian.
Yes, and it's not just us. It's every profession, because I have a friend who works at Clinique, and they hire makeup artists who have 1 million followers on Instagram rather than hire somebody who's been around for 20 years that is very talented, because that is who they're selling to.
And that is why we have that orange piece of fucking shit.
Yes.
So I remember this. You were very affected by the hurricane in New Orleans.
Yes. It was terrible for many, many people. But that summer, I had filmed a couple of videos in New Orleans, Dark Lady, which is to the Cher song. And I filmed all these videos in New Orleans. Well, it's like putting up a picture of the trade towers, right after. Everybody would be like, oh. So I was doing these videos in my show, and how do I change my whole show because of a hurricane? And I had to go out there, and I would be weeping all day long because
you lost everything in Katrina,
well,
right?
I did not, but I did not know.
You were here.
Know. I was here, and you just have to keep performing. I remember that I had a gig in Rehoboth the day after Katrina hit, and I'm watching on TV the water rolling into the town. I'm watching people on roofs, and then I had to go perform in Rehoboth, and I was like, Mark, I cannot. My agent, I was like, Mark, I cannot go. I was a wreck. I mean, I just thought everyone I had knew was gone. I thought everything was gone. We didn't know, and I remember telling them in Rehoboth I couldn't go, and they were going to sue me. They were going to sue me because I wasn't coming. And Mark Sendroff.
Oh, yes. Very excellent attorney.
He said, look, it is an act of God, but you're not there. Sorry, you have to go. Jimmy James went for me. Isn't that sweet?
That's
Jimmy James
really...
went for me, made a bunch of jokes, and they were appeased, but they were going to sue me, so I had to send someone.
So
I paid for Jimmy to go, and Jimmy went, and it was very kind of Jimmy to do that for me. Very kind.
Thank you, Jimmy.
I could not even do my show.
How could you?
I'd do my show. I'd play the videos, and there's Bourbon Street, and I had to take them out, but I had to figure it out too. But I was so weepy all day long. I mean, I just couldn't take it.
I remember that because I remember everyone was like, Varla doesn't know. I said, how is Jeff's, oh, he doesnn't know yet. He doesn't. And it was awful.
Bad. Yeah.
I remember that.
And then I started doing yoga and stuff because my mind, I could not get it off of New Orleans. I just couldn't get it. And then I wasn't allowed to go home till November. So I was up here in Provincetown with, a few pairs of shorts. And
I remember this. Yeah.
So then I went to San Francisco with my friend. And we lived out there for a little while, but it was a weird time. Believe me, so many people had it much worse. I'm like, going to Provincetown in San Francisco. People had nowhere to go. People had nothing. I still had my money, and I was sad that I might have lost my house, which I actually did not. But it was hard. But it was so much harder for so many people.
And did you hate George Bush at that time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And because we all seem to forget.
Yes. But now...
now it's like, bring him back.
Bring him back.
I really hate it. I remember whenever I think, oh my God, bring him back. I was nauseated every time I heard him speak.
Oh, yeah, me too. And I actually had a song in my show that year, and it was a big American flag, and I talked about how much I traveled, and I had to lie and tell people I was from Canada. That was the big thing. And at the end, I ripped everything off, and on my panties it said "No Bush." I mean, I had the maple leaves on my tits, and at the time, he seemed horrible, but
I know. But now,
You know what though? He's a gentleman. And I know that sounds
that's true. And
bullshit.
He had respect for the office of the presidency.
Yes, he had respect for it. And it's back then where I think that he had different policies that I hated, but now I look back, oh my God, he wasn't a terrible man. He was a good man in many, many, many ways.
Absolutely. And his wife and daughters are very pro LGBTQ and pro women's rights.
No, I think they're gentlemen and good people. They're good people. They just had different ideas.
Right.
This is a different situation.
This is a beyond.
Yes.
I mean, so I'm curious as to, you're 29, you've created Varla, you lose all this weight. Now, did you just do it because you weren't voraciously hungry anymore? Was it because you felt satisfied?
Anymore. But at the time, I was doing a modern dance piece with this guy, Mark Dendy. Do you know who that is? He used to do drag called Sandy Sheets. He did this crazy piece. We did it in New York City at the Joyce. And It was 2 Nijinsky's, 2 therapists. It was so out there. It was so weird. And I had already done Chicago. And I was already started Chicago in 96. So he had this dance piece and it got crazy great reviews. And there was 2 Martha Grahams in it. It was so bizarre. And I would play this therapist and I had to dance and do modern dance. And I was doing it in a corset and I'm like, I'm going to have a heart attack. And I thought, oh my God, this piece is so brilliant. I do not want them to cast someone else because
you're fat. Yeah.
And I just lost the weight. I had this crazy thing in my head that you can't put more gas in the car until you drive the car. I know that sounds silly.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good.
And
I
then
will
I
eat
thought,
properly and sparingly at every meal.
Yeah. So then I would eat, but then I'd get on the treadmill or, I would do stuff. I wouldn't just sit and watch television. I would, and then I thought, well, I don't want to do the treadmill so much, so I won't eat the shit. So
I don't have to do the treadmill.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did the world teat you as Jeff?
Oh, all my jokes are fat jokes.
Huh? After, like when you were Jeff in the world and you weren't Varla and you were just skinny Jeff that no one knew, or did the world treat you differently?
Oh, yeah. I think just not being a fat person.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, but when you're a big, giant fat person, people look at you and say, oh, they're thinking in their head, no matter how kind they are, they're thinking you're big and fat.
And you're lazy. And
Yes,
you're this.
and it was
Yeah.
a big issue with me. And I
horrible.
knew that. And now as a thin person, I am so sensitive.
Yeah. When you see a big fat person, what do you think?
It hurts. I feel pain.
Yeah.
I
do too.
mean, I understand, what
just
it's
wanna
like.
hug them.
And yeah, it's just something's going on.
Absolutely.
Something's going on.
Right.
Now, look, we all have problems, and so we don't show them in everyday life. They're showing their problem. I had somebody come up to me last night after the show that has an eating disorder and told me and was like crying. And you know what it's like when you want to get involved, but you
can't
you
because
can't.
it's unsafe. Yeah.
But I know what that issue is like. I know.
like when I see a very tall, awkward, not athletic,
Yeah.
I just want to go hug them and say, it's
yeah.
gonna.
Oh no, I know. But after I lost the weight, just as you get older, you have to change your material. I had to change my material overnight. I was all fat jokes. All fat jokes. And there's a movie. Do you remember that movie with Parker Posey? Like Steve and married Steve. What? Adam and Steve, I think.
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
she plays a comic who
Yeah.
loses all this weight and still does her fat jokes.
Right.
And no one knows. It was the same way with me. I had to totally change my material because I wasn't fat anymore. And all my jokes were fat jokes. And so then, a fat comic has a lot to weigh on, pardon me.
Hey now.
I had to totally figure out. And that's kind of what developed Varla as well, because I couldn't do fat jokes anymore. I had to figure out other material.
And
So it all sort of
but you
happened at the same
did.
time. I did. I figured it out.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
I want to talk about a couple of things, but one is how you come up with ideas for the show, because after Hillary, quote unquote, lost,
Right.
quote unquote, quote unquote. First of all, I cried.
Yeah.
I was sick to my stomach.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, my father died when I was in my 20s. And I remember that, like when you wake up after the death of, and you're up for a second and then you go, oh, right, everything sucks.
I remember going to a bar in New
Yeah,
Orleans.
that's
and
how
we
I
had
felt,
had dinner,
yeah.
and we walk in and no one's in there because they knew early. We knew, and no one's in there. And I remember the mood, and I remember, oh my God, a bar is not where I need to be right now. We thought we were going to have fun and celebrate,
Right.
and it was just everybody left.
Everybody sick
did.
to my stomach.
Yeah.
Like physically ill.
Yes.
Wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
So then you do a show about female empowerment.
Yes, right after that.
Right
because
after
I did
that.
a show. I was going to do a show. I'd already had the idea to do it about Hillary winning. And then I thought, oh my God, it needs to be done more now. Like
It's even more important.
It's more
Yeah.
important. Yes, just about amazing women in history.
And that's the greatest. I mean, that's what's so great about you.
Well, I mean, I had to, and also I didn't have another idea.
Well,
But then it just seemed more important. And then it seemed, my director's so great, Michael Shirali. He directs, Jackie Hoffman and Miss Coco. And he was like, yeah, you still got to do it. Just do it.
Yes.
And I was like, and it was really good to do.
oh, Jackie Hoffman.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry. Very Jewish. I should do like 10 of those. But so each year, do you take the show that you do in Provincetown and then travel it around and then do another show the following year?
Yes, following year. And the year before that, the year of the election, I remember I did a show called A Little White Music. Now, it sounds crazy, but it was all about things that white people had done, like I Dream of Jeannie. I Dream of Jeannie that we talked about earlier. And I did a big thing at the end of the show, is from Baghdad. She's Iranian. Now, anybody
Right.
bad on the show was was Iranian.
Right.
Her father, who had the accent, and her
Right.
sister Serena, but they were all dark-haired people. So it's so interesting. Even that show, we're
It's
teaching.
just the racism.
Yes,
Yeah.
the racism.
The
The
other.
show-
You're the other. Yeah.
Jeannie was bubbly and blonde
Right.
from Iran.
That's hilarious.
But the good one.
Right.
All the bad people were dark and had accents.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
It was the same on the Munsters.
Yes. And so I did a whole thing about that. And of course, Jesus, I mean, I had a whole thing in the show what Jesus really would have looked like. It was a National Geographic.
How about how people don't realize? They just want to believe
they think
that
he's sandy, blonde,
right,
and white.
And sorry.
Yeah. I mean, even that Kelly, what was her name?
Yeah, Kelly, the one who had blood coming out of her. Megyn Kelly.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly saying that Santa Claus was white. Why do you?
And who gives a fuck?
Matter? Who cares?
Fucking cares?
He's not real.
It's just ridiculous.
Just hilarious. But I've often thought, what do you think? Do you think that people one day drag will be in this same boat? You can't dress up as a black person. You can't do do you think that drag will one day be in that boat? I've often wondered, why is drag sort of given? Because people could freak out about it. And I do remember for a time in the 90s that drag was not welcome, definitely not welcome, that people thought people were making fun of women.
Do you think that was also a product of the AIDS crisis?
Could be, definitely. But I've often wondered, drag is so big now. And,
Jeff, I mean, comedy is so big.
Yes.
I've been doing it since I'm 19 years old. And yeah, it was, I don't know if I even mentioned this ever on the pod, but they recently interviewed me a few months ago because Amy Schumer was performing Pregnant and Ali Wong pregnant, and so they were going to, I don't know if
Judy Gold pregnant.
if they were going to do an article on pregnant. I think we talked about this, about pregnant comedians doing comedy when they're pregnant. And I was up there till literally a few days before I gave birth. But they're the firsts. It's and I'm writing this book right now, and I go back to these comedians like Moms Mabley and Jean Carroll, who no one talks about, who really set the stage for, and I know you feel like this. I definitely feel like, hey, hi, I'm still here.
Yes.
And I remember also when people weren't out, like in the early 2000s or something, and we would all be on these, the GLAAD Media Awards and the HRC, and now I don't even get invites, let alone I've hosted your events.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, well, Robin Roberts came out, so we're going to use her. Or this one came out, or Caitlyn Jenner, is
right.
And you think of all the people who really are carrying the baggage.
Right. Well, there was a girl that just posted, a RuPaul girl, and I felt bad for her because she's a really nice girl. But her ad said, the world's first drag magic show. And, I know, oh my God, my boyfriend, Kashetta, God rest her soul, will be returning in her grave. And she wasn't the first.
Right.
So it's just so interesting. You can't say you're the first of anything. Come on. And I felt bad for the girl too, because people went crazy.
Do you feel like, I mean, I know what it's like to be an aging comedian. Okay. And I feel like I'm funnier. I mean, I get funnier as I get older. And because I have so much more life experience and I'm fearless.
Yes.
There's no fear after 50, 45, 50. You're like, oh my God, I've heard every shitty thing I could possibly hear about myself until then Twitter came. And now I hear even more shitty things but there's nothing you can do that hasn't been done to me before. I've been humiliated. And yet, no, we want to hear the new.
No, I know. And I definitely feel, and people have told me that like the show of mine, the best, people have said this is the best one. And you think, thank God that, I haven't, maybe I'm finally peaking, but, I do find that I just have so much more to say and that, I don't feel that I've gotten less funny. I think people get less funny when they try to do the same comedy.
Same shit. Oh.
Comedy is also there's comedy that's in fashion. You can still be yourself, but people adapt and morph to fit the times. Like Joan Rivers constantly did.
Please. I have her in my book. Yes, Joan Rivers. Yes.
But you have to slightly change. You cannot do the same, or Buddy Hackett would still be around. I mean, there's
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you have to change.
Buddy Hackett.
And as long as you allow yourself to change in the world, because you, as a comedian, we are communicators. We are communicating. We're not just telling people, look at me, look at me.
And we're making you think.
Yes.
And there's intent, nuance, and context, and people don't take the time. It's like, oh, I heard that word. That's a bad word. I'm not going to laugh. And then they hate you for the rest of it. Like, I can't do Trump jokes in a mixed Trump crowd because once you do a Trump joke, they hate you. They don't want to hear another word coming in. Never with any other president.
No, why is that?
Because he has no sense of humor because you have to have some sort of self-respect and also you have to have
isn't it crazy?
Humility, and they're like, no, he's defending, fuck you.
You can't even have the White House Correspondents' Dinner anymore.
Right, because he's such a fucking coward.
Yeah.
He's a fucking coward.
Yeah.
He's ruined. All right.
Yeah.
Social media, which we touched upon a little bit, is a huge part of your show now. And the way, and it's like, it was so, I loved what you did because I often will go on social media and I'll say, wow, this person has so many, like 2 million. I have no idea who the fuck they are. And then I look up James Taylor and he has 60,000 followers. And it's,
I know. Well, I do think Barbara Streisand only has under 1 million followers. Lady Gaga has 40 million, but then Kylie Jenner has 140 million.
For what?
Yeah.
What is the talent?
Right. I know. Well, it's just so interesting because, and I talk about it in my show, this guy came to my show in San Diego and loved the show and had never heard of me before, but he just loved it. And he said, we have these Drag Race girls come on and the people get so disappointed because they don't have a show. I want to book you. But then right before he booked me, he realized I only had 25,000 followers at the time on Instagram and then didn't book me. He said, I can't, we can't take the risk.
Isn't that disgusting?
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you like the show or anything.
But a lot of our people who come to our shows are not on Instagram. So I'm on Twitter a lot because it's words. It's not pictures, photos. And yet everyone's like, Twitter. Nah. First it was Facebook. Now it's like, and now it's Twitter is fuck you. And now it's like, I don't want to make a video. I don't want to fucking take pictures of everything. I have other shit to fucking do. Yeah.
But I have to now.
I know. Don't you resent it?
A little bit, yes. Because what I do is hard because if you're not on TV, it's impossible to watch your followers go up. I mean, you're literally asking 100 people a night to follow you,
right? And then tell all their friends, right?
Yeah, and so it's just when you see somebody gets on TV and suddenly they have 800,000 followers, and you're like, oh my god! But the power of that, it does translate to people who want to book you. It is a definite
and
thing.
It's fucking sad.
Yeah.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
I don't know if there's an equivalent for stand-up, maybe, Last Comic Standing or I don't know. It must be so difficult.
Well, I remember me, Miss Coco, Sherry Vine, and Jackie Beat. We were in Whistler, Canada, and this is a few years ago. And we were with Bianca too, but we were all sitting at Bianca is great, Bianca Del Rio, because she also will say, know your elders. He's always been and will hire, he's hired Sherry Vine to open for him at Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's really great, but we were all sitting there thinking, oh my God, we're done. We're all done. But we all still have worked. You just kind of adapted.
You still work.
Yeah, you still work. But it's also, you are working for your older crowd. But, as we know, you need younger fans. So you try to get to them. But it is, it is difficult.
It's so hard.
I mean,
and just think of all the work you put in. You do everything right. You do every fucking thing right. And then, sorry, that's not the way we do it anymore. You have performed at Carnegie Hall.
Yes.
What's the opera house? In Australia.
The Sydney Opera House.
Yes. You were on Broadway.
Briefly.
And you've had such like different kinds of success, which is, I don't think the people on RuPaul's Drag Race will have such a full sort of career.
Well, you got to deliver. I mean, and the girls on Drag Race that have done really well deliver. Like Jinx Monsoon is great.
I love Jinx.
Full show. Bianca is great. I mean, Ben de la Creme is just great. But these are people who are actors who kind of had their shit together before they went on the show.
Right.
Can you imagine now you're a star and you have nothing to sell? I mean,
that's what happens. Like these comics, they're like, okay, go do 45 minutes. They can't.
They can't.
So one thing I've learned at your show is how much you guys, drag performers respect one another and help each other out.
Yeah, a lot have. I mean, like I said, Miss Coco, I talk about her in my show. I met her in New York City and I was stalking her basically.
And she gave you her mailing list.
Yes.
Which is what
from the West Beth Theater. Because she remember he did his show at the West Beth Theater on the West Side. Remember that theater?
Yes.
For years and years and years. And, I was able to use that mailing list. And just nice, nice people. I mean, but of course I've worked with others that have not been, but I find you're one of the two. You're either afraid someone's taking what you want or you're confident and you want to help other people
because there's room enough for everyone.
Yeah.
Do you miss the down and dirty part of being a drag queen?
What do you mean down and dirty?
That culture of like, because even for stand up, that fucking basement where it's just a disgusting room with the brick wall, and it's just drag is literally made for kids. It's made to be on television. The libraries,
PG-13. It's made. Drag was not that way when I started. It was subversive.
Yes.
It was people expressing themselves, doing whatever stupid shit they wanted.
Right.
I remember stuff in New Orleans and San Francisco. You go places and people would do the craziest weird stuff that made no sense, but you were like, "Oh my God, that was so weird!"
And interesting.
I mean, now it just has to be TV
non-threatening,
ready. And non-threatening and TV ready. And I feel bad for some of these girls because I don't feel that bad, but they do these shows for kids. Their biggest fans. Some of my colleagues, their biggest fans are 14-year-old girls.
Right. And
their
then 3 years later, they're like, oh, fuck that person.
They can't, and they go and they say
that,
words like Jinx has often said, like, people come to the show and not knowing what they're getting because he never did it on TV and he's filthy, and these mothers are racing their kids out because they didn't know that's what they were getting.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
Do you get a lot of hate mail?
Never.
Really?
Never.
Oh, I gotta get so much hate.
Maybe they
now.
don't know where I live. You really do? I
Oh,
don't get
my
any. But see, I don't do
God.
a lot of political stuff.
Right.
And my stuff is character driven, so it's not, I don't really, but I never get
Any no homophobic or
No,
that's
never.
amazing. That's amazing.
I only get now I find what's
I
crazy.
get a lot of anti-Semitic.
People send me dirty pictures on Instagram and on Facebook.
like of their dicks and stuff.
Yes.
What
It's
is that?
I know.
What is I can't even imagine taking a picture of my vagina and going, here, isn't this hot? It's like, what is that?
I don't mind it. Please send more.
Oh God.
What do you think? I find this interesting and see if I want to know your opinion on this. I feel gay male comics have it so tough. Do you find that? I just in Provincetown, there's no gay male comics anymore.
I think men
drag,
have it easier than women comics.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But I think that there's such a higher percentage of the women comics. There's a high percentage of lesbians because it's really a very non-feminine art form. It's not, you're not demure. You're not.
No.
And it's powerful. And, it's interesting because I know some comics who won't come out.
Yeah.
And they think it's going to affect your career, but you can't be a good comic unless you're brutally honest.
Yes. I don't know how somebody would do that.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of it's the same thing. It's the building up an audience. Like when we got to Provincetown, I spent hours every day handing out flyers on the beach.
Oh my
and
God,
talking
can you
to
remember
Oh
that?
my God. I had such good legs. But I'd be like, hey, come to my show. And then you had a fucking chat with them. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to go home.
Well, I go to Puerto Vallarta now and you're supposed to do that and I just can't do it anymore.
I can't do it.
I can't do it.
That's awful. To go to the beach and hand out your...
Go to the beach in drag and hand out flyers.
No. And it's so fucking hot. It was hot for me and I wasn't in drag.
God. I used to do that though. I remember going here to the beach in high heel shoes and a bikini.
That is hilarious.
I know, my first year.
I wonder about the gay. Bob Smith, who was my best friend, who, God rest his soul.
Who has that great chapter about Phyllis.
Yeah. Oh, Phyllis.
Yeah.
Is she still alive?
Yes, she looks like $1 million.
Oh, hi, Phyllis.
She looks like $1 million.
Phyllis Schlossberg.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved her calls. You don't have any people, and you got to get out there. You're flyering. So I don't know. I think it's easier for male comics in general. I think a lot of them.
I'm just saying in the gay community.
Well,
wow.
But Mario Cantone.
Yes. But that was kind of the last one, right? Billy Eichner.
Billy Eichner. Yeah.
Who's huge. So that's.
Yeah.
But it's funny, in Provincetown, there's no gay male comic headliners.
There used to be all the time.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Drag now. Is it like, okay, we have so many drags, we can't have any more men?
I think it's probably harder because, a gay guy would probably rather go hear a drag queen, than, some guy comic.
God, thank God I do drag at this time.
Yeah. See, now you're worried about First of all, I think I just really want everyone to look up Varla Jean. Just look up Varla Jean. Follow Varla Jean on Instagram because you're classy. You're a classy drag queen.
Saying something.
Yeah, no, you are. It's such pure entertainment. Now, I always ask all my guests about two things.
Okay.
Number one, we're very pro mental health. Okay.
Yes.
I suffer from anxiety. As you know, I took my.
Too.
It's the worst.
And just recently.
Really?
Oh my God. 2 nights ago was the first night that I actually had sort of a panic attack during my show for no reason, where my mind just started going into a loop. I'm like, what's happening?
Right.
Because I just kind of had a hard week with some stuff. And so it's just, I've
It's
never
so
quite had
difficult.
anxiety, but I find as you get older, your brain starts to fucking play tricks. I mean, it's weird.
But I've done cognitive behavioral therapy, which is great because it gives you tools, meditation, but you learn to go, I've learned to, but it's taken years. Okay, I'll have that weird thought that you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
And then you have to identify it like, okay, that's coming from It's not real. It's not reality. It's
Yes.
just a thought. It's just a thought. It is not reality.
Right.
And you have to learn how to say, okay, bye. But your brain is doing, it's like,
I need to look into that.
yes,
because
it's
gotten a
so
little weird.
healthy. Yeah. You have to be able to identify, there's a book called Radical Acceptance, which is all about, because I suffered a very bad clinical depression, which is about, I have to take meds. Have you ever taken any
No.
meds? Okay. So, and I understand why people are like off their meds. And it's just, I one of my meds is Paxil, and I've gained, 30 pounds from it. And so then I've tried to get off, and then I get really anxious and depressed. And I'm like, okay, I'll be a little fat and not wake up every morning, suicidal,
Right, yes.
So, we try to break the stigma here, but it's, yes, cognitive behavioral therapy. I can give you books too.
I need books.
And working out is really helpful.
Well, I do so much of that.
I know.
I can't really do it.
I know you can't do any more. I mean, you're
But I
muscle man.
every now and then I just, my brain, it just can't turn it off. It just will think
It's
the
awful.
nuttiest things.
Yes, always.
In a loop, and the impending doom.
Right. The doom is the worst part.
Like
It's
this
doom.
is going to be I'm going to be like this forever.
Right. And
that's why I
that's
can't
what-
smoke pot or anything.
Yeah, that's why why you should, if you had the tool of saying, okay, this is not reality.
Yes.
This is in my head.
Yes.
So I can either spend time, invested in this bullshit that my head is making up,
Yeah.
or I can move on with my life.
It's funny because a lot of things you just said are in the movie Fight Club.
Right.
Because I just wrote, like, obviously someone had therapy
Right.
to write Fight Club. I think it was written by a gay guy. But it's funny because every words you say are my lines in Fight Club. This is
Right.
not reality because, she's the same person.
Right.
We're doing a show called The First Wives Fight Club here.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What did you want to ask me about mental health?
No, that was it. If you
Okay.
were on meds and what you do.
Okay, I'm not on meds, no, but I do have sometimes panic attacks. And
Right.
I had them when I was in college. And
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, just recently, they've come back a little bit, which is just so weird. I don't know if I'm just.
Maybe because you're in a transitional period.
Maybe so. I mean, it's just been.
By the way,
What?
after my show last night, this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, you're so funny. So, what's your story?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Your story. Tell me about your story." I said, "What story?" I mean, you just fucking heard me ranting for over an hour on stage.
Yeah.
He's like, your story about transitioning.
Oh my God.
I said, "I'm not transgender." He said, "Oh, you're not." I said, "No." He goes, I hope I didn't offend you." No, I don't care. You didn't offend me. There's nothing wrong with being transgender, but like, where the fuck did you even get that from?
know.
And then Elisa comes over and goes, "I wish she was transgender." But, okay. The other thing I always ask, because it's called Kill Me Now, is what, now it could be anything.
Okay.
Pisses you off more than anything, like makes you fucking crazy. And it could be anything. Like I know I've used this example before, but like when people are looking at their phones while they're walking up the stairs of the subway and I'm trying to fucking get somewhere and you're just like, and people who walk down the street looking at your
Yes.
phones and I have to like wave like you fucking asshole. So what fucking, it could be anything.
I driving or whatever, I cannot stand when you make a mistake. Like, okay, I've been in cities where I don't know, and because I drive a lot in different cities, and you're like, don't know where you're going, and then you wait or do something, and then
Right.
someone gets so mad at you, and you're like, I'm sorry, and they just keep doing it. Like I've had people follow me, honking horns, flipping it like for
Right.
10 miles after
Elisa
that.
does that.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, let it go. Like, what is
Let
in their
it
life?
go.
I know. It drives me out of my mind.
No pun
So
intended.
much
Yes.
that I have, like, I remember one time in Cleveland, somebody did that to me. And this is going to sound crazy. And then I got so mad at this woman. She just kept going, fuck yeah, fuck. Like screaming it because I didn't know which exit I was getting
Right.
off. So then I just started following her. I just
Good for you.
started following her for like 20 miles. I'm not kidding you. Right behind her, just right behind her, scaring the shit out of her. And she
And-
finally pulled into different driveways and whatever. And I pulled right in behind her.
Uh-huh.
I got out of the car. Like, thank God this is years ago.
Yeah.
And she's like scared to death. And I'm like, I just wanted to make sure you knew I was sorry.
No way. What'd she say?
She was freaking out, like trying to call 911 on her phone. I mean, I just scared the shit out of her. And I was so calm and I felt this fire. It was so weird. I mean, I totally road rage. I get with people, but I was just so mad that I was trying to tell her I was sorry and that it just drove me out of my mind.
And
that
did she
wanted to just,
react?
Like, make me pay. Oh, yeah. She was scared. I scared the shit out of her.
You could have done a more Jewish approach of, I just wanted to let you know I'm new here and I couldn't find the exit. And I just wanted you to know that I feel really welcome now in this town. Something like to fucking make her feel like
I
shit.
scared the shit out of this woman.
Good for her.
And I've done that a
Good for
couple
you.
times where somebody's like, I've tried to apologize something and then they're like so crazy that then it makes me crazy.
I have had, these are two things, like with the driving, is when I see a Trump and like I saw a Trump and NRA sticker here in Provincetown at Max Seafood. When I see a Trump sticker, like I have to look at the person.
Yeah.
I have to see what they look like and think. I feel like bumper stickers are like tattoos for the car.
Yeah.
They're like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
and it's like, why would you? He's such like I don't put anything on the car on purpose because and I lease. But I remember we're on the Cape and there's we were driving to Provincetown and we were passing this car and it had a W sticker on it. And this was a couple of years ago. And I was like, fuck that asshole, and he was going to Provincetown. He had a convertible and had a big W. And I'm like, that fucking George Bush is a fucking asshole. And he's fucking driving with it. And Elisa was like, Judy, it means Wellfleet. And I was going crazy in the car like an asshole. But driving is, and I'm afraid of the guns now.
Oh, well, one time in Los Angeles, I was backing out of a driveway and I couldn't see because there's these trees and everything. And this van came to a screeching halt. And he was like, fuck you. And I was like, I said, and I usually don't do this. I said, slow down. And I look back and he has a gun.
No way.
And he just waves a gun like this and puts it back on the thing and goes down. Like, oh my God. He was just waving a gun. Yeah.
It's really sick. The gun
I
culture
do not.
is so
People
sick.
get crazy in the car.
Yeah.
I just have to.
Do you own a gun?
Do I know?
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I don't want to.
I know. And people can own guns. I'm fine with that.
No, they're
but
fine.
we don't need weapons that are going to kill 400 people.
Yeah, why am I not allowed to have a nuclear weapon in my garage?
Right.
Why can I not build it? Isn't it my right to just build whatever I want? What is the
Exactly.
difference between a gun that can kill 400 people in a minute or I build a nuclear bomb that can kill 1 million? I mean, what's the difference?
Is
it a numbers game?
mind-boggling. It is mind.
Why is one person different from 1 million?
Right.
Why can't I build a nuclear bomb?
Yeah. It's really this whole
Starting today.
I feel like I feel like the whole people around the world must be, they have one mass shooting. They change their guns.
Australia.
And it's
totally
done.
changed.
And they don't care. They love their guns more than they love their children.
Yeah.
Fucking fucks.
I don't get it. No,
All right.
believe me, I grew up in hunting culture. My parents, my father had a gun,
Right.
but I don't feel the need to have one. I don't want that responsibility.
Right.
I do not want to have an accident. I do not. Now, of course, do I want to protect myself? Yes, but I'll just do kung
baseball
fu.
pad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look at your fucking muscles.
No one bothers me.
So Varla is married now.
Yes.
Do you feel settled? Do you feel
I do. It's so interesting to have the dating taken out of your life or the
Looking for-
constantly
yeah.
looking. And sometimes you think, God, what do I do?
right? Yeah, I have all this extra time and energy. I'll read
But
a book.
it's great
Yeah.
to know. I mean, to just know someone loves you
Yeah.
and is there for you every minute.
Right.
I mean, it's just
I'm gonna vomit. And
he does though, and he cooks for me.
he's adorable.
He's sweet.
and you don't look alike at all. Anyway, I want everyone to follow you. So where can they find
Varla
you?
Jean Merman on Instagram, and that's good right now.
It's
That's all I'm
Varla
doing.
Jean
Merman. MERMAN.
on Instagram. I guess I got to do fucking Instagram.
Just you got to do it. It's also Facebook with just pictures. So even I don't want to read anybody's shit anymore. I don't want to.
You're right. You're right.
Pictures are pretty, and if I want to read the thing, I do, but you don't. You just thumb through the pictures. And I know that sounds terrible, but I don't care. I just don't, the rants about,
I know it's
people
awful.
oversharing is just.
Oh, I can't. That's a big pig in my.
You know what I hate most about hospital selfies?
That's a whole bit in my act.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do a whole bit on that. I have a whole bit about about the hospital selfies, and I say that Instagram and Facebook are Munchausen syndrome.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
And also, I can't believe sometimes people take pictures of their grandmother dying in a bed.
I know. What the fuck? No one wants to see that. Or your dinner.
No.
Or your breakfast.
No, I agree.
Oh, God.
Hospital selfies. That's better.
So, Varla, where do people find your calendar?
Oh, varlajeanmerman.com.
Okay, and you'll be, where are you going? You're in Provincetown?
I'm in Provincetown, and then I'm going to, I start touring the show. My show, A Star is Born, and I start with Oasis in San Francisco from the 2nd to the 5th.
Of September?
Yes. Of October. Then I got a show with Judy Gold.
And Varla Jean. We're going to be,
the Calderwood.
Isn't it the 17th?
Oh, it's the 17th. I'm
is it? I don't know. We're going to be at the Calderwood at the Huntington.
Check varlajeanmerman.com.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great show that we travel around with. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
I'm not kidding, guys. Check out Varla. Jeff is so fucking talented. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I'm telling you, Judy, when I first started to listen to you do your show every night, I was putting on my makeup. I mean, the comic timing, just, and how you make a show different every night, but with some of the same material is, unbelievable. Because some people can't do that.
Thank you, Varla. I love you.
You're welcome.
And as we always say, so long!
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.